latest weekly installment. Tonight we're going to be joined by Dr. Michael Dimayuga and Dr. Elvira Rios, and we are going to be talking about sugar bombs, food diaries, the pH scale, everything you need for ready, set, go to change your life, your waistline, and whatever those results are that you're hunting for. And I am so excited to be joined by Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. Well, I know I am most excited about this because I did not realize some of the silent saboteurs that I thought I was doing everything right. And then walk through some of the things you're going to be talking about tonight and realized, oh my gosh, I have a lot of learning to do. So Dr. Mike, I'm going to let you take this away.
Okay, and thank you so much for that. In our life as physicians, one of the most important things that we learn is that there is a specific tool for everything that we want to get done. And this is especially true for surgeons. With the right tool for the job used correctly, you have success. You can have the best tools, but if you don't know how to use them or you refuse to use them, you're going to hamper your success, or perhaps you won't even have any success. So the first thing we're going to go over are the tools that the program brings to you and how to use them correctly. And of course, the first tool in the tool chest is the Slendrix. This is the clear solution of the 2 bottles of solutions, and you use this 10 minutes to 30 minutes before the 3 main meals of the day. Now, the reason we have this expanded a little bit to the 30 minutes is it's clear in the package insert that you're supposed to use it 10 minutes before the 3 main meals of the day. But increasingly, people have very hectic lives, and we are indeed moving into that part of the calendar of the year when life gets even more hectic than before. So if you can time taking the drops within a 30-minute window before you start eating, you should be fine. Like everything else that is dose-dependent as well as time-dependent, the longer after you've used the drops that you start eating, perhaps the less efficacious it's going to be. So use the Slendrix correctly, 10 minutes before the 3 main meals. Do not eat or drink anything right before or right after. And then the Accelerate, the second component, is used right before you eat the meal. Now, here's why this is so important. Slendrix helps control what you eat. It controls the cravings, and it controls how much you eat. It somewhat suppresses your appetite. Accelerate then increases your energy levels to improve and increase your basal metabolic rate so that your burn rate, the rate at which your body normally burns calories, boosts itself. Secondly, you probably should be eating breakfast. If you're not eating breakfast, there are a couple of other things that you need to take into consideration. First, study after study has repeatedly shown that a characteristic of people who do not have a weight problem is that they eat breakfast more often than they do not. So skipping breakfast along the lines of, well, if I eat less, I'll lose weight, is not a good idea. It is called breakfast because you're breaking your overnight fast. Depending on what time you last ate before you went to bed and depending on how long you slept, you are potentially looking at 8 to 12 hours of no food intake and no water intake. Your body is literally dehydrated and starving. So if you're one of those individuals that wakes up and says, but I'm not hungry in the morning, here's a suggestion. Pour yourself a glass of water or even 2 glasses of water and just drink that down first. You'll be amazed if you drink the water 15 to 30 minutes after you've had that water consumption, because now you've dealt with the dehydrated state. Your body will now say, oh, okay, we're ready to eat. I have had clients that looked at me in disbelief when I first broached this idea, come back after 1 week of having done just that, consume a little bit of water before eating breakfast. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, I just rediscovered breakfast. I can't imagine how hungry I am actually after I have the water. Now, speaking of water, the guidelines call for 100 ounces minimum if you are 200 pounds or lighter. If you are above 200 pounds, you take any excess weight above 200 pounds and you take half of that in ounces of water and you add it to the 100. Part of the reason for this, As adults, we frequently confuse dehydration and hunger. We eat when we really need to be drinking more. So drinking this much water takes care of that situation. Secondly, we are in fact flushing fat, which is a solid form of oil, out of our body with water. And typically, oil and water do not mix, so we need a lot of the water to go out. Next, the optimals, the vitamins and the minerals, and the omega-Q. Frequently, cravings for all kinds of different things are generated by deficiency states, a deficiency in a particular vitamin or group of vitamins or vitamins and minerals. The dietary advice of the last 35 years or so has greatly emphasized low-fat diets. And interestingly enough, we are now learning that that approach was not just misguided but completely wrong. So adding healthy fats, the omega-Q, adding healthy fats to your diet ensures that your body stays satisfied longer, and your body needs to see healthy fat in order to lose the sick or the bad fat. So that's what the optimals and the omega-Q are for. The Rejuvenex is for that special group of people out there who might have cravings specifically for carbs and or they are caffeine fiends, meaning they are constantly drowning themselves with caffeine because they cannot get through the day. And rather than risk these individuals going through withdrawal, and rather than risk them abandoning the program completely, Rejuvenex was added to the mix. It helps keep them focused, it gives them the boost of energy, it ironically enough simultaneously calms them down so that they can stay focused on the program and stay focused on making good choices. And lastly, the Restorix. Restorix is our signature detox product, and this was the one product when I was first looking at this whole program that truly, truly made me pause as a physician and say, this is science-based. I know the science that they're using with the Restorix. I need to take a closer look at this system, and I'm very glad that I did. But here's the key. So many of the toxins we have that we are exposed to on a daily basis are trapped in our fat tissues. As we lose the fat, these toxins are released back into circulation. If we do not trap the toxins and remove them from the body, we will get to a point where our body refuses to let go of any further fat. So those are some of the tools. The next tool that we're going to talk about has to do with something that you have to do personally. And you can do this in one of several different ways. We're talking about the food diary. What it is, it's simply a listing of what you ate in a particular day, and ideally it breaks down by calorie content, the type of calories that you consumed, as well as the amount of water that you've consumed. You can track this the old-fashioned way, pen and paper. You can track it on a computer. You can make a spreadsheet if you so want to. Or you could download one of several different apps available for smartphones and computers as well. We typically use MyFitnessPal or Fat Secret. These are both apps that can be downloaded to smartphones. The advantage of these apps, you can track your consumption in real time. And more importantly, you can send a link to your health coach so that they can take a look at the food diary. We want you to list all the food you eat when you eat it. We do not want you to wait until the end of the day and rely on your memory. If you are like me, your memory is not so good the older you get. And that's just a fact of life. So rather than depend on a faulty memory, get the information down as soon as it occurs. We want you to track the calories as well as the calorie breakdown. How many of the calories came from proteins, how many from carbs, how many from fats. You need to keep a running total for both the calories as well as the water intake. And the reason for this is early on, when we first started coaching clients to this program, people would come in and they would consume roughly 50% of their daily calories towards the end of the day because they were not keeping tabs on how much they were eating throughout the day. And that led to a couple of problems. Number one, they were feeling deprived and tired and low energy throughout the day because they weren't eating enough. And then they were consuming too many calories right before they went to bed. If you keep a running tally, you can measure out what you need to eat and correct as you go along so that you don't have that situation. And the water. Everyone believes that they drink enough water. Strangely enough, when they start documenting how much water they do actually drink, then they realize most of them actually do not consume anywhere near as much water as what the program asks for. So keep a running total. This is as much a lesson to learn a new skill set as it is actually putting the information down. And at the beginning, every client that I have coached has complained about how tedious the process was, how difficult it was to get the information. And I just looked at them and smiled, because I know, in my head, I can take a look at their food diaries, and without doing any looking up or writing down, I can figure out what calories are coming from what types of food. But that's not helping the client learn how to manage their lifestyle and their food intake. Right about the second to the third week, the clients stop complaining, because like everything else, the new habit has become ingrained, and they can take a look at a plate of food, and they can take a look at the listing of ingredients, and they know what is in there. So this is the tool that ensures your success from two different aspects. Number one, you are teaching yourself new skills. That's great. More importantly, your health coach needs to be able to see the food diary a minimum of once a week, because we need to intervene if there's anything not quite right with the food diary, if the amount of water is not being consumed correctly. We need to be able to intervene early and frequently. In my personal coaching program, I have my clients submit the food diaries twice a week. And we use whatever means is available. The majority of them email me the link to the food diary on Fat Secret. A few of them drop it through the mail slot in my office. One of them, because she drives past the area on a daily basis as part of her rounds, because she maintains grounds, she just swings by and drops it in the office, drops in for a quick chat, and she's off and on her way. So however it is that they need to get the food diary in, the food diary needs to be reviewed by the coach so that we can intervene, make corrections. And the next slide will highlight why this is so important. Part of what we teach is the fact that you need to eat proportionately more protein. But having said that, there's always bad, good, and better, or red, yellow, and green versions of everything that we do. So for example, if you're consuming more protein in the form of what's enclosed in that red box, well, yes, it's protein, it's animal protein, but unfortunately, it's processed. It's got a ton of preservatives, it may have flavorings and colorings added to it, and, unfortunately, you may not know exactly where some of that protein is coming from exactly. So, yes, this is protein, but it's probably not the best source. A better source of protein would be what is enclosed in the yellow box. Whole chicken, real meat, vegetables, eggs, and fish. What makes a protein source a best in the category or a green type? The next slide shows this very nicely. And this is one of those things that when most people look through this slide, they are amazed that the plant kingdom actually carries so much protein. So take a look at the top winner, spinach, 49% protein. When I first learned this information, all those years of watching Popeye when I was growing up had a different meaning. Because now I understand why he was getting so strong. He was actually consuming a lot of protein. So a lot of really good vegetables have a lot of protein. Actually, a whole lot more than animal sources and even eggs. The key, however, is that you would love to have the protein, whether it's in animal sources, eggs, or spinach. Make sure that they're clean, that they are organic, that they haven't been sprayed with God knows all manner of different things. So that would be the top 10 sources of vegetable protein. and they do stack up quite nicely with animal sources. So that's the first part, using the proper tools. The next one that we're going to talk about happens to be a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and this is sugar bombs. The past 35 years or so of dietary advice was focused on reducing the amount of fat in the diet. And food manufacturers, when they started reducing the amount of fat in processed food, had a particular problem. The food did not taste so good. And so two things were added to processed foods to make them more palatable. One was salt. The second one was sugar. However, we're now beginning to realize that added sugar is the culprit in our efforts to lose weight, that we are constantly sabotaged by consuming sugar that we're not aware of. And so, whether by choice or happenstance, the food industry has come up with fairly creative ways to hide the sugar. So, eating fat won't make you fat. It's eating sugars that does. It's hidden sugars that will derail you. We will help you find them. So let's clear up a few items first. Let's talk about, are carbs sugars or sugars carbs? And this is something that confuses a lot of folks. Now, understand, I spent a good deal of my early life going through science courses, so this is one of those things that when I first heard, it puzzled me, but then I realized most people don't have that much of a science background, and or it was never of great interest to them until now that they have a weight issue. So, the next slide will highlight this very nicely. A carbohydrate is any of a large group of organic compounds occurring in foods and living tissues, and it includes starch, sugars, and cellulose. It is also defined as any food consisting of or containing a lot of carbohydrates. Now, I want to draw your attention to that phrase, sugars, starch, and cellulose. All carbohydrates come in one of those three forms, sugars, starch, or cellulose. As you go from sugar to starch to cellulose, the sugar molecule, the carbohydrate molecule, becomes ever more complex and less likely to cause you trouble. So let's go talk about some of the more obvious sources of sugar. The first line, glucose, sucrose, fructose, and dextrose. In the world of science, especially in the world of chemistry and medicine, chemicals, substances, compounds tend to be named in a particular convention. So in this particular situation, the last three letters OSE indicate a sugar. So glucose, sucrose, fructose, dextrose, and there's a whole lot more of them. But there's also high fructose corn syrup, HFCS, cane syrup, molasses, maple syrup, and Dixie crystals. Most people have no difficulty understanding that these are in fact sugars, and when they see these things listed as the first ingredient, they know to stay away from it. Now, we come to some of the more creative ways of labeling sugar. Barley malt, cane juice crystals. I mean, that's sugar basically, but it's not labeled as sugar on the label. Caramel, corn syrup solids. That's high fructose corn syrup solids. Dextran is a type of sugar. Evaporated cane juice. It's the same as cane juice crystals. It's just another term for it, but it's exactly the same thing. Glucose solids. Well, that's granulated sugar. Golden syrup. High fructose corn syrup, we already heard about. Honey, although it is a natural product and it has some health benefits associated with it, for the purposes of helping you lose weight and not regaining the weight, honey is still considered a sugar and a sugar bomb. Maltose, malt syrup, maple syrup, molasses. Now, I found this slide on the internet earlier today. The next slide shows the 56 names of sugar used by the food industry. And for those of you who have the ability and the know-how, I would suggest you go ahead and do a screen capture. Because if you see any of this on the back of a food product or a label, and especially if it's listed in the top 3 or 5, then you know that that product mostly has sugar. Now, zooming in towards the center of that particular slide, I saw something that I have never seen before. Florida crystals. Since I live in Florida, I was quite amused by that. But like, really? So, now we're in the business of further confusing people. So, these are the less obvious sources of sugar. Now we come to what is potentially one of the worst situations in the whole scheme of sugar and sugar additives, and that is what I call the double agents. These are products that look and sound healthy, and these are products when people first hear this, they will push back. I have had a lot of pushback and sometimes downright argumentation about the situation, but these are the double agents because they hide below the radar as healthy alternatives, when in fact, if you actually look at the label, there's a ton of sugar in these things. So let's take a look at the next slide. When I talk about tomato sauce, I'm talking about commercially prepared tomato sauce or pasta sauce. If you take a look at the back of that label, it will have some sugar, some name for sugar prominently listed in the first 5 ingredients. It does not mean that there are no health benefits associated with the pasta sauce because, after all, tomatoes have a whole host of health benefits. But unless you make your own pasta sauce or your own tomato sauce, you are in fact consuming a bunch of sugar. And the problem with consuming sugar that you don't know about, you think you're doing your body good when in fact you're consuming sugar. You're triggering the release of massive amounts of insulin, which triggers fat production and weight gain. And all of a sudden, you're looking at your scale and nothing happens for 3 days. And it's because you consumed a sugar, but you were not aware of it. Now, yogurt. Lots of folks will push back on this, and I did not fully comprehend this until some years ago. I had access to the database of the United States Olympic Committee section on athlete nutrition. And one of the foods suggested as a pre-competition food was yogurt, because of the amount of carbohydrate in it, which took me by surprise because in my head, and I'm sure like so many other folks out there, I thought of yogurt as protein. So I looked at the next time I went shopping, I looked at the back label of a container of yogurt, and sure enough, there's more carbohydrate, there's more sugar in it than there is protein. Now, having said that, Greek protein has more protein than regular protein. That is true. But there is still more carbohydrate and there is still more sugar in yogurt than there is protein. Which brings us to the next slide. Barbecue, for all the wonderful things associated with barbecue, the meat itself is not the problem, it's the barbecue sauce. And anyone who's ever made barbecue sauce on their own knows that they're basically putting together 3 ingredients. Number 1, it's an acid of some sort, whether it's tomato sauce or vinegar. Number 2, it's a sweetener of some sort. Some recipes call for cane sugar, some call for brown sugar, some call for molasses, but those are all sugars. And the last major ingredient is something to add some heat to the rub or to the spice. And when you understand that barbecue sauce packs a ton of sugar, you might want to go easy on the barbecues the next time out. Now, the last item on that screen, that's a granola bar, but the next few sentences apply also to protein bars. Any commercially prepared food bar, because of what it has to go through in terms of manufacturing, packaging, transportation, shipment, placement on top of shelves, and then final sale and consumption, a binder has to be used for these products. And more often than not, the binder is some kind of sugar. I was coaching a group earlier this week, and somebody brought in fairly expensive protein bars. And the bar was very prominently, the word protein bar was very prominently displayed on the front. And we flipped it to the back, and here's the breakdown. That particular bar had 4 grams of protein, 10 grams of fat, and 20 grams of carbohydrates, mostly in the form of sugar. Now, how can they call a bar that is mostly sugar a protein bar escapes me. They really should call it a sugar bar. Oh, but you know what? It's a different market that they're trying to get to. So be very careful with any of these bar-like products. Take a look at the back, and if there is truly more carbs than there are protein, it shouldn't be considered, it shouldn't be sold, and it shouldn't be used as a protein bar. So the next slide will summarize a lot of this information and put it into context. So most people already know that a loaf of white bread is not the healthiest choice you can have when you're eating, and it has 3.5 grams of sugars per serving. Baked beans, no surprise, has a fair amount of sugar as well. For reference purposes, plain old regular Coca-Cola, not the diet form, has 10.1 grams of sugar. Now, something as healthy as a strawberries and banana smoothie has 10.5 grams of sugar. Now, understand please, although Coke and the smoothie are fairly close in the sugar content, the smoothie is still healthier overall, mainly because of the fiber as well as the micronutrients, all the other ingredients, all the other benefits that come from consuming fresh fruits are found in the smoothie, which clearly you don't have in the Coca-Cola. But for the purposes of talking about keeping weight loss on track, not slowing things down, if you eat the smoothie with mostly fruit in it, you are in fact consuming a ton of sugar. You may want to balance it off with some protein or some fat. Special K, red berry cereal, 23 grams of sugar, and we do have a particular upcoming webinar that deals with this particular product and how misleading the entire packaging of breakfast cereals really is. Heinz tomato ketchup, 23.7 grams of sugar. Who knew that you were mostly eating red sugar when you use ketchup? And then, of course, no big surprise, the Mars bar has 60 grams of sugar, but it's called a candy bar, which kind of raises the question, why are we not calling the protein bar that I was talking about earlier a candy bar when it had 20 grams of carbohydrates versus 4 grams of protein? So at the end of the day, what you really want to take a look at and keep in the back of your head is that this is what healthy carbs look like. They're mostly from the vegetable family, the plant family, and especially if you look at the left side of that picture, the green leafy vegetables, not only are those healthy, very complex carbs, they also pack a ton of protein. So you don't necessarily have to give up eating or give up on the concept of eating protein when you eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. You are actually eating more protein than you would have had you eaten animal source protein. So that's my segment for now. I turn it back over to Whitson.
Well, Dr. Mike, I so appreciate everything everything that you talked about, and I just want to clear up, and I love this, what you said, and I want you to go back to this slide in just a second, but at the same token, when you were talking about the water, anybody that is 200 pounds or less, you're saying we need to be consuming a minimum of 100 ounces of water per day.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. And this is one of those things that everyone thinks that they're drinking that much until they start writing it down. And then typically, the most I've seen are a couple of clients who were within 60% of that number. And yes, they were aghast. They thought that they were drinking a lot, but clearly they were not. And one of the concerns that people raise is that drinking that much water, they're going to be going to the bathroom constantly. You will at the beginning. Most people today are living and walking around in a chronically mildly dehydrated state. And it causes a whole host of problems. And when you start drinking more water, initially your kidneys are not used to it, so it starts to dump a lot of it. When your kidney realizes that this is now the new normal, it starts holding on to more of that water, and you go back to going to the bathroom just as often as you did before you started drinking as much.
Well, that is true. I am proof of that, and it's amazing once you condition your body for it and just how much better you feel. So thank you so much, Dr. Mike, for that. And that Heinz ketchup example, someone told me there's more sugar in Heinz ketchup than there is in Breyer's ice cream, spoonful per spoonful. And
spoonful per spoonful. I mean, think of it this way. You're eating red sugar, basically.
I will never look at ketchup the same way again. Oh, man. Well, now we're going to do something fun. We're going to switch gears, and we're going to be talking to Dr. Elvira Rios, and she's going to talk about how important it is that you learn about what the pH scale means in your body, whether you're acidic, whether you're alkaline, and how important it is for you to get over on the alkaline side of the world. So, Dr. Elvira, are you with us?
I am. Good evening, everyone. And Dr. Mike has given really good information to all of us, so we always have something to learn. Oh, my goodness. Well, I will apologize a little bit ahead of time because my voice is a little raspy, so I hope it doesn't interfere too much. Hope you're listening well. Well, I have a little bit of a science to teach, and I hope not to bore you too much about it. We're going to talk about pH scale, and this is the potential of hydrogen. What this is about what solutions are. Solutions could be either acidic or alkaline. Alkaline is often called a base, and we find solutions that can be anywhere from, could be body fluids, stomach acid, blood. We can have beverages such as wine, coffee, or even seawater. The pH scale goes from a scale 0 to 14, where 0 is the most acidic and 14 the most alkaline. For example, the stomach pH acid is 1, so it's very acidic. Wine would be about 3.5. Water is neutral, it's 7. And the venous blood, it's 7.35, and the arterial blood is 7.4. Seawater, for example, is 8.5, and baking soda is 12. So ideally, what should the pH say? Should be alkaline, should be between 7.35 and 7.45. So now that we have defined this, we know that 7 is neutral, and we have an acid and a basic environment. What is the body's pH? Well, here we have in the next slide a pH scale. Everything that is less than 7 increases the acidity, and everything above 7 will increase the alkalinity. We should be as neutral as possible, like I told you earlier, from 7.35 to 7.45. Why? This is very important. Well, we understand that the higher the pH, or the more alkaline, the healthier we're going to be. And the lower the pH, we create more problems. How is this? Well, it is by creating inflammation. The cells are going to be exposed to more stress. All the processes, the chemical processes that go on, will liberate a lot of substances that are not good for us. And they are the ones that are going to increase inflammation. What does inflammation mean? Well, depending the system. Inflammation affects many organs and many systems in our body. Cardiovascularly, we are going to have some damage there. We can have some weight gain, create obesity, develop diabetes. We can have kidney stones because we can't process well the electrolytes and we accumulate others. We can decrease our immune system. So we're going to be accelerating those free radicals that are going to be the bypass products of that acid environment. And this is going to age our cells easier and sooner by creating all this damage to it. And what's going to happen to us? We're going to have no energy. We're going to be destroying our system. By increasing the basic or the alkaline foods in our diet, we're going to be able to allow those cells not to degenerate or deteriorate as fast and to have more of the processes that create energy in our body. So by this, in this situation that we can regenerate, and this is what we want to achieve. This is what we want. We want to achieve neutral balance. What is the problem with today's diet? Well, in the Western world, what's going on with our diet? In the industrialized nations, we have a lot of stress. We have the stress will promote more acid, and this is going to create more problems. But most of our Western diet is largely composed of acid-forming foods, protein, cereals, sugars. Alkaline-producing foods such as vegetables are eaten in a really smaller amount. And we have a lot of stimulants also in our Western diet, like tobacco, coffee, tea, alcohol. All those are extremely acidifying. Stress and physical activity, actually this is surprising to most people, that physical activity, both insufficient or excessive amounts of it, also can cause acidification. So most of the alkaline producing or neutral food by nature are not the processed. Most of the processed foods that you see, like chips and those potatoes that you see, those French fries there, they are not homemade. They usually are combined with something to make them plumpier and fluffier, so when they get in that deep fryer with all those terrible fats, those are going to create more inflammation. The beef that you get from that hamburger, it will create more inflammation, and especially because you're getting it from a chain of restaurants that will put additives and they're not using organic products. Soda is very acidic. Coffee, if you drink too much of it, it's going to be very acidic. So we need to take a turn and add the natural foods, the foods that are in the green section, what we call the foods that are going to give us more health. And those, as a rule of thumb, are the plants. The vegetables and the fruits, mostly the vegetables, are going to give us an immense amount of nutrients, and they are going to help us stay in a good, balanced, alkaline environment. We can go to the next slide. Some health experts believe that, yeah, you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, it'll be popping up any second.
Yeah. Some health experts believe that our pH balance is extremely important. Others say that it's essential to life. And we can see that it is because it affects all the systems, all of our systems, digestive system, circulatory system, musculoskeletal, immune system. When you see a lot of people complaining about digestive disorders such as indigestion, nausea, bloating, gastric reflux, and those are symptoms of excess acid in the gastric region. They're not having enough alkaline minerals in the intestinal tract. If you do not have that, what you're going to do is you're going to get that pancreas exhausted and and it's losing its ability to decode the food and get you what you need. And this leads to the accumulation of certain products that increase inflammation. In the circulatory system, the same thing. Acid will cause inflammation. There's good fats that help us to heal inflammation and atherosclerosis, getting them from good sources. But when you have a lot of ingestion of bad fats, you're going to be in your red zone here. And this is going to help you increase and create plaques in your arteries. And that plaque formation is the response of us not eating good foods. There we go again. It is inflammation created by an internal acidic environment. The body responds to the acidity by lining these vessels with these flat, fatty plaques. And it does it in a certain way to protect from forming leaks, like when we call aneurysms. But it keeps draining that blood flow instead of having a wide, patent stream of blood full of oxygen and nutrients to be taken to the vital organs where we need them. It's going to be narrower and becomes, more exhausted. So when you have a very narrow space and you can't get enough nutrients to a certain area of the body, well, if it's in the heart, if it's a coronary that's getting obstructed, you're going to have a heart attack. So think about, if we're in the red, we're just buying a heart attack, a stroke, peripheral vascular insufficiency, like, your legs swell and you develop ulcers and have difficulty ambulating. So think of it as that. That's how we're going to have to interpret the pH and the alkalinity, the acidity and alkalinity in our bodies. We have to look at them in terms of disease. And we have to do one step at a time so we can get wiser about the foods that we choose, so we can make our balance, our body's balance in alkalinity. So eat your greens, your kale, your broccoli, your celery, your Swiss chard. Add those more to your diet. Unfortunately, the majority of our diet does not include a lot of vegetables. What we need to do to be on the green side is eat about 60% of our daily intake should be the vegetables. And then that means alkaline foods. And then less than 40%, some acid foods or not so acid. Eventually some of them will turn into a neutral or alkaline, because the body does try to get to homeostasis all the time. But by doing so in this proportion, we're helping our bodies to stay neutral or alkaline, which is disease-free as much as possible. We can go to the next slide now. Whitson?
Oh, yes, it's going to the next slide.
It's going, yes.
We've got some high-resolution photos on this next slide, so I'm going to see if I can...
Okay, yes. Well, continuing talking about acidosis, yes. we'll have to understand that acidosis will decrease the body's ability to absorb minerals and other nutrients, and this decreases the energy production in the cells, and it decreases its ability to repair damaged cells and the ability to detoxify heavy metals and make tumor cells thrive, and this will increase our fatigue and our illness. So let's recap here. What are our worst foods? Well, a lot of coffee, even some teas except the green. Green is good all the time. Soda, those energy drinks, they're very acidic, so they really are going to be the enemies of the cell. Green tea, it's good. It's much better. It's not as acid as the other type of teas or the coffee. Water is great. We need to stay hydrated because the body needs the water. And this, like Dr. Mike said, it does help us flush a lot of things out of the system. We humans are comprised by 70% water. So going back to this, we need to then keep walking to the green side. There's some products that we see every day, like cow's milk, soy milk, and I usually tell some of my clients that the cows are girls and they have hormones. So if they're being fed more hormones, that's when women get out of balance. And we know that we can develop a lot of hormonal problems and will affect the stamina of a woman because of that. So avoid a lot of the cow's milk. Yes, if you live in a place where you can have everything organic and you know that cow is fed, grass-fed and very pure, you may once in a while have a little bit of your red meat and some dairy, but you should avoid as much as possible, especially for the purpose of weight loss. There's some store-bought products that some of them are better than others, and you can find them, and that they're not as bad. You can also make them, and that's going to be the extreme. If you have the time to go ahead and make your almond milk or your coconut milk, you're free to do so. That's going to be the cleanest diet that you can give your body. I hope everybody's kind of catching up with this because it's a very dry subject.
No, well, it's wonderful because so many of us had no idea what any of this meant, and I had no idea what an acidic lifestyle I had prior to learning this from you. So, I mean, we all just as baby steps. We're gonna get to the green side.
I know, and usually physicians, we are terrible when we go to school. We live out of coffee and Diet Coke, and we forget to drink water and whatever is in the vending machines. Otherwise, you starve. So we, in those years, even though we're supposed to be smart about this, we're just, acidifying our bodies and not helping ourselves. It's not until we get older we realize, oh, I was doing this all wrong. So you're not the only one, Woodson. Yeah. Well, anyway, the homework is we need to make a list of the 10 foods we want to transition into. Which are the worst, which we're going to color them red, which are better, and those are going to be yellow, and which are going to be green, which is these are the best versions of them. Don't stay too long with the worst foods. Go and hang in there with the yellow category for a while longer and transition yourself to the green. I know a lot of people are scared of the greens. When I talk to people about, okay, you put your greens in the blender and you're going to make a juice out of it, I could see the faces and the grimace already thinking, how bad is it going to taste? But they're not that bad. They are actually very good. So plan your time frame, how you're going to move, into the green category and see how your health continues to improve. You are not going to regret this, and you're going to see the changes as little as 4 weeks. You're going to notice a big difference, and the longer you stay walking towards the green side, the more health you're going to give your body.
That is fantastic. I am so excited about that and getting people's feedback about how they're going to implement this red, yellow, green and moving over to the green, but taking little challenges of what they're going to do day in and day out. And I know that there is a slide getting ready to come up about Restorix, because it is not only does it remove toxins, but I know it has a massive pH effect as well. And I didn't know if you could talk about that for just a moment.
Oh, let me tell you, this is a product that myself, I don't think I'm going to be able to live without anymore. There are several products that are great, and this is, like Dr. Mike had talked about it, it is a detoxifying product, and it's going to eliminate some of those negative radicals that you have produced out of your digestion and gone into the bloodstream and increase your acidity. So this is going to take all the bad things that are floating out there and eliminate them. So we'll give you the opportunity to be in an alkaline environment, so giving you more health. Actually, I have a great story about the Restorix. I have a very skeptical spouse, and I took him for a brisk power walk of 4 miles, actually today, and I told him, you need to take some Restorix after this. And he was not believing me. He had not been walking for a while, and he came from the walk with me and decided to lift some weights and then take a bath. And after that, says, I'm not sore like I normally do get after I do this. And I said, okay, it's going to take a while. You're going to see. So, eventually people will learn to love this product and how much more energy you're going to have after using it. It's incredible, Woodson.
It really is, and the fact that, to use this product for someone that hasn't exercised in a while, like your husband, and then not be sore because of what it pulls out of the system, or someone like me who wants to maintain the amazing transformation that you guys coached me through. It's part of my maintenance routine, and it's something, like you said, it will be in my life every day from here on out. I absolutely love this course. It's just amazing. It really is. So I just wanted everyone to know that it's a fantastic way to help you transition on that pH scale to really take your Restorix seriously and take it every day. You need it for your weight loss, but you need it for your health. You need it for your life. Absolutely. Well, with all of that being said, we are going to wrap up tonight's presentation. And so I want you to be on the lookout for the sugar bombs. I want you to let us know creative ways that you have been able to maybe increase or maintain your water intake. What are some real creative ways that you've moved through the red, yellow, green categories? I know a challenge that we have in our house right now is we are not eating anything out of a box or a bag. We are getting away from everything processed and eating real food. And it's amazing. You could even get kids to do this with you. So we want to hear your suggestions on how you're making that transition. But next week, we're going to learn the ins and outs of fat loss versus weight loss. And there's a difference between the two. And then we're also going to talk about how oxidative stress will affect or can affect your weight loss and overall health, and how you can take measures to address it ASAP. Right now, there are things that you can do also to take that oxidative stress out from the inside of your body. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I appreciate all of you Dr. Mike, Dr. Elvira, thank you so much for tonight. And we are going to sign off. Have a fantastic week. Let your coaches know how you're doing. Get those food diaries in, and let us also know some fun, creative ways that you've been making this transition, because we really want to share your stories and your ideas. So, everybody, good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.